for what our audience is. Okay. Okay. We got lots of people not using it yet. So that's great for this. We can get them on board with the party, with the book funnel party, right?
You're going to get a lot of information today, so that's fantastic.
Yes, wonderful. Okay, so here's what I want to say about Damon and BookFunnel before we get started into his. Are you sharing slides today or are you just talking to
No,
us?
I have slides. I'm going
Okay,
to go through it, and then I'm going to I have time set aside for questions.
awesome. Okay. So I don't remember when or how or why I came across BookFunnel, but what I do know is that it has been a monumentally important tool to me as an author and a publisher throughout my journey. We have launched all of our books using BookFunnel as a tool for growing our ARC lists because it's just such an easy tool to use, especially if you don't have a website or don't want to set up a landing page or all of those kinds of things. You can do it so quickly through BookFunnel, grow your email list, deliver that ARC copy to people very, very easily. And then, of course, you have their email addresses and things, and you can follow up and add them into your sequence and do all of those great things. And BookFunnel has continued to evolve over the years with all the things that you can do. But one of the things I'm sure Damon is going to tell you all about the promos, the group promos and email list building strategies and all of that. I mean, we get asked so much, how do I build my email list? Well, I'm sure Damon's going to share some of that today. But I just want to, passionately say it's not just because Damon and BookFunnel have been a sponsor of our organization and continue to support us that I'm here bragging on them. It's because long before he was a sponsor, I was using this tool and just absolutely love it. So it's really important for me for people to understand that when we bring our sponsors forward, we test the products, we use the products, and I want to be able to know that it's a good thing to bring in front of our audience. And this one definitely is. So Damon has been in our community for a long time. He and his wife, Julie, own the company. Great supporter. Thank you so much for continuing to support us and all the things that you do for authors in general. And I am going to pass it over to you now so you can tell everybody about this amazing tool.
Perfect. Thank you so much. That was a lovely intro.
You're welcome.
Okay, let's do share screen and make sure everybody can see. Are we good? Can
Looks
everybody?
great. Looks great.
Okay. So I'm going to launch right into it. I will say that if you have questions, you can put them in the chat. I will not be looking at the chat because my ADHD will immediately make me look over there and not pay attention to what I'm doing. But I do have time for questions set aside at the end. Again, I apologize for being a few minutes late. I was in the wrong room and sitting there all by myself wondering, where is everybody? So, so here we are. I'm not going to talk. I will talk about BookFunnel features as we get later in the talk, but really I want to kind of start off the conversation. I title this talk "Building Your BookFunnel with BookFunnel" because we love alliteration at BookFunnel, and we're going to start with simply what is a BookFunnel with a space in between it, and it's really it's a marketing term. A lot of people use it. A lot of authors use it and have put it in as a marketing term as the sort of the journey that the reader goes through, where they come in at the top of the funnel, and then we're trying to get as many of those people to come out at the bottom of the funnel, woo them inside your funnel, and then get them out the bottom and sell them books because that's what we do. What is a book funnel? Capital B, capital F with no space. It's me. We're a much bigger company, but I am the creator of BookFunnel. So you're hearing it right from the person who still actually writes most, if not all, of the code for BookFunnel, because that's what I really love to do. We do all kinds of things. Alexa sort of talked briefly about ARC management, mailing list services, and then we also do direct sales fulfillment, Kickstarter fulfillment, ebook, PDF, audiobook delivery, all kinds of stuff. And we're going to talk about a few of those features, but this is not this talk is not like a sales pitch that's all about BookFunnel. I don't really like to do stuff like that. But we are going to talk about funnels and setting up a marketing funnel or a book space funnel to as a way to get started in your book marketing business. So why do you need a funnel? And it's because you need a plan. And I actually learned this really early on when I was publishing my own books. I'm a self-published author of fantasy. I write like dragons and elves. I learned this really early on that no one else cares about your books like you do. Your family, your friends, even the people that love you will be just like, oh my God, your books are amazing and stuff. But no one is ever going to put the love and the heart and the effort into it that you do. So you build the funnel. The reason we're building this funnel is to try and get more people to discover your books. And we build it and we call it a funnel because we try to get as many people in the top as we can so that we can guide them to your books at the bottom. And this all sort of starts with what we call the reader journey, which is the beginning. They've never heard of you, which congratulations for almost all of you. There are 8 billion people who've never heard of you, which means there's a huge upside of readers to discover you. Then they've read one of your books. They picked up a book, they've checked it out, and they go, oh, that's pretty good. And for the most part, most readers, most authors that I know are readers first, right? Myself included. Sometimes you read that one book and you're just like, oh my God, I've become a huge fan. I love this author. Other times you read a book and you go, that was pretty good, right? Then, maybe you decide you like that book, you want to go pick up another book by that author. Maybe it's in a series or maybe they write standalones. But eventually, hopefully, if we're going through the funnel, they've read one of your books and now they're becoming a fan, right? I imagine all of you out there are probably fans of some authors that you read, right? And for me, in my journey, I find a new author, I read a book, I go, that was really good. I read a lot in series because I read fantasy and that's genre fiction. It tends to be pretty series based. And then I go on and I read the next book and I go, oh, that's really good too. And usually by the time I've read a third book, right? If you've wrote me in enough that I want to read 3 of your books, I would consider myself a fan. And usually by the time I get a few more books in, I become a super fan or a true fan, right? And this is where we want to get readers too. And not everybody that starts at the top of the funnel that even reads one of your books is either going to turn out to be a fan or to be a super fan. But that's part of our job as authors, is to try and make those super fans the people that come out the bottom that will absolutely buy everything that you publish for the rest of your life. And those are the fans that we all want. I would venture to guess that every single one of you, if you are a reader, probably has an author for whom you are a super fan, if not many. I have many. And I could list them off for you, but it would take a while. And I am a super fan of those authors. If they have a Kickstarter, I'm backing it. If they are selling a book off their website, I'm buying it. They've got an audiobook, I'm buying it, right? I'm a super fan. So we want to get more people through this reader journey and out the bottom. And it doesn't mean that the rest of the people, even if they stop and they're just sort of a fan, or even if they just read a few of your books every once in a while, those are still very, very valuable. We don't want to discount that. But ultimately, we are all trying to get to this collection of super fans. So how do you do that? Marketing. Hey. So everybody hates marketing, but a great marketer with a mediocre book is going to outsell a great writer with no marketing every single time. And this is the part that I'm sure that all of you are learning now, because you are here in the Women Publishing Summit and you are learning that sadly, as I discovered, that writing the book was not actually the end. It took a Herculean effort for me to write that first book and then eventually the second and third. But unfortunately, nobody was reading them, because without the marketing, nobody's ever going to find your books. If you don't get people into the top of the funnel, you'll never get anyone out the bottom. So do you have to? Yes. Yes, you have to. Every author needs a fan base if you plan to be in this industry for the long haul. I would assume that a lot of you, if not all of you, are here because you would like to make a full-time living as a writer. And maybe some of you aren't, and that's not your goal. But if your goal is to be a full-time writer, or even to be a writer for a long time in the industry, you're going to need to learn to do a little bit of marketing. And you're going to need to learn to get people into that funnel so that we can build super fans. So for authors, what is the best way to market? Cats, pictures of cats. No, it actually is extremely effective, but that's not actually it. It's with stories, which is great because you're writers. So you write stories, or you're nonfiction and you don't necessarily write stories, but you write and you disseminate information that people want and people need. And the thing that you need to remember is that marketing is a numbers game, right? As this lovely little illustration will show you, there's more people going in the top, there are more people coming out the bottom. And that is why we call this a funnel. And it doesn't have to cost a fortune. It actually can be fairly inexpensive to get started. So I'm going to go over this really quickly, this plan of action, just to show you what we're going to be talking about today. But I'm not going to list all of these off, but you can quickly read through this and get an idea of what we're going to be talking about as I go through the rest of these slides. And then if by the time you get through with all the rest of this stuff, If you want, we have some extra credit work that we can show you. I do want to point out there is a link at the top of every one of my slides, bookfunnel.com/women in publishing. If you go to that link, you will not only find a discount to join BookFunnel for those of you who don't already have a BookFunnel account, you will find links to all of my slides here. So you don't have to take screenshots or take notes the whole time, writing down what exactly is on my slides. You can actually download a PDF of those. And I have a few other goodies there for you that we're going to get to. So if we get through with all of that, there is some extra credit work here. All of this stuff is listed in the slides, but we're going to jump right in and talk about two terms that you're going to hear. You're going to hear me talk about a lot here, but you may have heard in the industry before, which are reader magnets and lead magnets. And often the two terms are used interchangeably, but I actually want to define for you what I think that they mean and why they differ. So for me, a reader magnet is something that draws a reader to subscribe to your mailing list after they have read one of your books. So we're counting this person as a reader of your books. They actually have read something of yours, they liked what they saw, and they decided that they would like to find out more from you, right? This is what the mailing list is for, is they just want to get on so they can find out when you have another book, what other books you might have available. They want to hear from you. And reader magnets make a better call to action at the end of your published books. So as people are reading your books, they get to the end and we're going to have a call to action, which again is just another marketing term, but really it's just a, hey, click this link and go over here and do this thing. Lead magnets are what we use to draw new readers into your funnel that have never read your books before. And what we want to do there is we want to get those leads, right? So they're not readers. They haven't actually read your stuff yet. They don't know who you are. They have an idea. You either write in their genre, or they liked your book cover, or they liked your title, or something about your blurb enticed them to download, to grab a copy of your lead magnet. But they are not readers yet. They are just leads. So this is cold traffic that readers that don't know who you are yet, but we're going to introduce them to you. So we're going to go in our plan of action. We're going to start with step one, finish your book. If you're not here yet, if you haven't finished your first book, then I want you to finish your book. I don't want you to leave this talk and say, Damon from BookFunnel said that I need to go off and build a mailing list and write a reader magnet when you haven't finished your book. This is the most important thing. If you don't have a book, then you don't have anything to sell people. But once we get our book finished, the next step we're going to take is to write a reader magnet. And here's where we're going to go into a little bit of detail about what makes a great reader magnet. So let's start with short stories, right? You don't have to write a lot to create a reader magnet. Now, remember, a reader magnet is something that we are doing for somebody who read your book, finished reading it, and now we're offering them something to try and entice them to join your mailing list. So short stories are great here. They're quick to write. They're part of your world. If you grew up like I did, you got a little Disney earworm there. And then it works. Short stories can also work really well as a lead magnet if they're written correctly. And I'll talk a little bit more about that. Second type of great reader magnet, bonus chapters. These are really fabulous. They are quick to write. They're just like short stories. We're going to do 1,000, 2,000 words. I see most bonus chapters or extended epilogues come in at 1,000 to 2,000 words. They are an easy custom reader magnet that you can use for every one of your books so that no one is escaping your funnel. If any of you have ever read Lucy Score, she's a huge romance author. She's kind of blowing up right now, and she writes and delivers a bonus chapter at the end of every single one of her books. So every book that she writes, she actually knows ahead of time what the bonus chapter is going to be, because the bonus chapters create a very, very high engagement. They get to the end of the book and you say, hey, I'm so glad that you enjoyed the book. If you'd like to read a little story about what happens, because of course, if you're writing in romance, what happens to the couple a year later, then, join my mailing list and you can read the story for free. So very, very high engagement. And in fact, they are great for attracting fans and not people who are just looking for free books. They are self-selecting. If somebody gets to the end of your book and they didn't really like the book, they're unlikely to want to go and read the bonus chapter. So anybody who grabs a copy of your bonus chapter and has joined your list, we know two things. One, they've already read one of your books, because the bonus chapter is not worth it to them if they have not read one of your books. And two, they really liked your books because they wanted to give you their email address, join your list, and they wanted to read that bonus chapter. So they wanted more of your writing. So another little bonus with bonus chapters, you can reuse your cover. So if you've already spent the money and you have a beautiful book cover, you can take that same book cover, slap a little red ribbon on it that says bonus chapter, and you're done. You don't have to go and make another book cover for your bonus chapters. Um, Downside, bonus chapters are a terrible lead magnet. Remember, lead magnets are to try and grab people that have never read your stuff. A bonus chapter of a book that they've never read is not worth anything, right? The only people that are interested in a bonus chapter are the people who've actually finished the book. And then finally, the third reader magnet that works really, really well, and we see this a lot on BookFunnel, is a prequel novella. Sometimes this doesn't work for what you're writing. If your genre doesn't lead to this. In fantasy and science fiction, it works really well. Romance, you can pull characters out that are not necessarily the leads, and you can give them a little bit of story before, or you can write a prequel that sort of talks more about the characters as it leads into the book. So these are great. These are prequels. They are literally leading into the first book of your series, which is great because series readers always love more story. If they read to the end of book one, and then you say, hey, great, I'm so glad you enjoyed the book, find out what happened the first time the characters met and didn't even realize it. They want to go back and read that. Series readers always want more story, and they always want to know what happened. The advantage, the bonus of prequel novellas is that they can work really, really well as a lead magnet too, because someone who's never read your book can still read the prequel, enjoy it, and then hopefully, if you're doing your job right, it leads into the first book of your series. So now you have a book that not only appeals to the people who've already read book one, but it appeals to people who've never read book one, and now you're enticing them to go read book one. So a couple of points I want to note. If you are writing a prequel novella, and especially if you're writing smaller bonus chapters and things like that, keep it under 12,000 words. You don't need to do more than this. Really, you're good at 8 to 10,000 words on a prequel novella. You don't have to give people an entire book. You don't have to give away an entire book. You can just give them something under 10,000 words, and it's a perfect introduction. It should be an introduction as a lead magnet, which we'll talk about a little bit next. It should be a great introduction to the kind of writing that you do. If you're short on time, go with a prequel novella because you can use it as both the reader magnet and the lead magnet. It's not going to be as enticing as something like a bonus chapter, but it will still work as a great reader magnet, and it also doubles as a lead magnet. So you're killing two birds with one stone. The next thing we're going to do after we've written a reader magnet, we're going to set up your mailing list. I am not here to tell you how to do that. I could, but it would take an entire other talk just to talk about that. What I will point to is this book, The Strategic Author's Guide to Mailer Light by Erica Everest. It's a fantastic book that will teach you how to go through and set up Mailer Light, which is probably the most popular service that authors integrate with on BookFunnel. So I'm not necessarily saying that they're the best. I'm not picking one over the other, but they are pretty easy to get started with. They're free to get started with. This book is a couple dollars on Amazon and everywhere else, so you can pick up a copy. Once we set up your mailing list, which again, I'm not going to detail how to do, you're going to write a welcome email. I'm also not going to tell you how to do that because that's not where my strengths lie. I will tell you that you should read Newsletter Ninja by Tammy Labrecque. It's probably the best book on the subject. And in fact, if you go to that link, which unfortunately is not on this page, but it is on every other page, the bookfunnel.com/women in publishing, BookFunnel will buy you a copy of this book. You can find it right there on that page. We will be happy to buy you a copy. It's a fantastic book that is not about how to set up a mailing list. This is about how to talk to readers in a way that doesn't sound salesy. And that's why I love this book, because it's a hard thing. It's a hard edge to walk sometimes. You want to make sure that you're talking to your list, but it shouldn't always be about buy my book, buy my book, buy my book. Newsletter Ninja will teach you how to do that, and it is specifically about authors. So it's a fantastic book. It's not a general marketing book. So once we've got our mailing list, we've written our welcome email, we go on to the next step, which is add a call to action before you publish your books. If you've already got your books published, that's okay. Great thing about indie publishing, assuming that you're indie publishing and you're not going trad, that's an entirely different topic, and I'm happy to answer questions about that. But assuming that you're indie publishing and you've got books out there already, you can go back and change your books. And a call to action is all that is at the back of the book. It says, hey, thank you for reading. I'd like you to do a thing. That can be anywhere from getting a review to buying the next book. But in general, the best call to action that you can possibly have is to get readers onto your mailing list. And the reason is if you get them to go off and leave your review, that's great, but you may never hear from them again. And you now have no way to talk to them again. It's much better to get them onto your mailing list and then say, I hope you love the book. I hope you'll consider leaving a review, right? Get them to leave the review there, get them on the list first. And you can do this. You want to make sure that this is done before you put your books out there, because what you don't want is those first early days when you're first getting your new book out there, you don't sometimes know where all of those readers are coming from. So you don't want to miss out on anybody that does read your book, loves it, and wants to hear more from you. You want to make sure that when they get to the end of that book, they know exactly where to find you and how to hear about more from you. That's what the call to action is for. And then once we published, it's time to start finding new readers. So the next step, we're going to write a lead magnet if your reader magnet won't work. If you're using a prequel novella as your reader magnet, congratulations, you've already finished this step. You've got a great lead magnet as well. But let's talk about what makes a great lead magnet, because they are different from a reader magnet. Remember that a lead magnet is we are assuming that the person picking up this copy may have never read anything by you at all. They have no idea who you are as an author. All they have to go on is a general description of your novella, maybe a book cover that tells them what genre you're in, maybe the genre if you're in a promotion. But what makes a great lead magnet, and sometimes is there's some crossover between reader magnets. So short stories, they want to lead into or introduce your books in some way. So you want to make sure that a lead magnet, again, for readers who've never heard of you, that it's going to lead into your first book. It's going to introduce the characters, the world, if you're in fantasy, the magic systems, if you're in space, the kinds of spaceships you have. If you're in romance, if you write small town romance, you should introduce the small town, maybe a few of the characters, whatever it does, it should be an enticement to get people to go on and read the series. We want to show readers what your writing is like, right? How many of you picked up a book and within the first chapter, you immediately knew, this writer is not really for me. They're a little too wordy, or they're not wordy enough, or I don't like the use of this, the overuse of this word. Readers can detect that. And we want to make sure that your writing in your lead magnet is going to tell them that. It's going to telegraph exactly what kind of writing you do, so that when they get, what your short story, what your lead magnet should say, if you really like this, then you should go read my books because you're going to want to come with us on this journey. You should make it a complete story. It should not be a cliffhanger ending that leads into book one. You can certainly leave an open thread that leads into your book, but the story that they get should be a complete story. They shouldn't feel like they got baited into reading this and now they have to go read the whole book in order to get the rest of the story. You should give them a full story. Prequel novellas, which we already talked about, also make great lead magnets. Again, they lead into your books or series. So somebody picks up your lead magnet, they give it a read and they go, I really like this. I want to find out what happens next to these characters. I want to go on and pick up the book. So your prequel novella, just like your short story, should lead them in and leave them with a desire to pick up your book. However you choose to do that. Again, it probably shouldn't be a cliffhanger. I can tell you from experience that readers kind of feel like a bait and switch if you drop them with a really nasty cliffhanger. Instead, it should certainly leave an open question that maybe they need to read the book to answer, but it shouldn't necessarily drop them with a gut punch of a cliffhanger. And the reason that novellas and short stories, the reason these work really great is, number one, you don't have to spend a lot of time writing them. And number two, they don't require a huge commitment from new readers, right? A new reader is trying to figure out very quickly whether or not you are the author for them, whether or not you're going to be the author that they want to pick up all of your books and read. And a few thousand words is usually all it takes for a reader to figure out whether or not you're there or not. So you don't have to put a lot of time in this so that readers don't put a huge commitment into it. For lead magnets, do not use bonus chapters, deleted scenes, extended epilogues, things like that. They do not work well because they are not of value if you've never read the book. Remember, the lead is we're trying to get people who have never read your stuff to go on and read your stuff. And I will tell you, don't use a cheap cover. Don't treat it like, just because you're giving this thing away for free, that it should look like a free something that you're just throwing out there. You should put a decent cover on it. This is for a lot of readers, this is going to be the first time they interact with you as a reader. You want to put your best foot forward. You want the cover to be great. You want the title to be great, the blurb, and then of course the content of the book. You want all of it to be on point, because that is how you're going to attract people to get them into the top of your funnel. Once you've done all that, once we have a lead magnet, you're going to start joining BookFunnel group promos. This is the self-serving part of the talk, but I do want to talk about it because it is probably the cheapest way, the most expensive and the least effort way to get started building a marketing funnel. So what BookFunnel promos are, and Alexa sort of talked about it a little bit, and I know that they use them really effectively. BookFunnel promos are working with other authors in your genre. So if you write, we can talk about high level genre like romance or science fiction, but no, we're talking about even lower level stuff. We're talking about small town Christian romance, right? And what you're looking for is you're trying to find you want to get into promos where you are joining with other authors that write the same kinds of books that you write. Because what we're doing is we want to get your lead magnet in front of readers who've never heard of you. But more importantly, we want to get them in front of the right readers. So while you might join, if you looked on BookFunnel, we have this huge board that has all the major genres that you can find, and you can go and you would look on it and find ones that match your books, and then go join those promos, right? So you will find, if you write romance, for example, you will find hundreds of romance promos on BookFunnel right now. And you might find one that's huge, hundreds of books, and it's just broadly romance, right? And that's great. My book is romance. I should be in that promo. And you can, but you're also going to find that if you can find one that's a little bit narrower to your genre, something like small town Christian romance, there might only be 30 other authors or 29 other authors in that promo. So it's a smaller promo, but every one of those authors writes the same books that you do. And that means that every reader on their lists reads your books, reads your type of books. So we're getting your books in front of the right readers, the ones who read small town Christian romance. And more importantly, we're not only getting them in front of the same readers who read your genre, we're getting them in front of readers who read your genre and open emails by authors and click links in those emails, because that's how they're going to be led into this promo. And so using BookFunnel group promos, you can build a list, a small but loyal list very, very quickly. If you get on and you start joining promos within your genres, you will find a lot of authors and a lot of promos, and you can start to get new readers into your funnel very quickly. Then you're going to read Newsletter Ninja, because it's going to tell you how, once you get those leads, what I want you to think about is when you have a lead and someone joins your newsletter, they are a lead. They haven't read your books yet. They don't really know who you are. And it's your job to try and get your books and your author brand to the top of mind. That is what a book like Newsletter Ninja is going to do. It's going to teach you how, once they're on your list, how to entice them into reading and putting your books at the top of their list, so that they can then discover you as an author and start becoming a fan. And once you started building a small list using promos, we're going to move on to the next step, which is author swaps. So an author swap is really the same as a promo, except one-on-one. So you're going to find other authors in your specific genre. Again, the example I'm using, small town Christian romance. You'll go find there are thousands of swaps available on BookFunnel that you can find other authors in your genre. You can set up notifications, so BookFunnel will email you when new swaps are posted that match your genres or match your criteria. And you're going to find these authors, and you are going to request to swap with them. A swap is just one-on-one. I'll send my list your book, you send my book to your list. So the important part is that you're finding the right authors for your books. And again, this is where you want to be a bit more selective. Author swaps in a group promo, you might be in a promo with 25, 30, or 100 other authors. If you send that out to your list, none of your readers are going to expect that you've read all 100 of those books in that promo and you're personally recommending them. In an author swap, you're not even really personally recommending the other author's book, but it's going to appear more personal. It's going to appear more like a personal recommendation, because you're really just saying, hey, this other author that I really like has books like mine. If you like my books, you might like their books. So it's going to look a bit more personal. So you want to make sure that you find the right authors, find ones whose books match your books. And what's great is if you're scrolling through BookFunnel and you're looking at swaps, you can not only find the authors that are in your genres, you can actually look at the books that they're offering to swap. You can look at their book covers, you can preview them, you can go look at them on Amazon. You can find the books that match your books. Somebody might say that they write small town romance, and then you go look and their book covers are a little chesty. And you might say, oh, even if it is small town romance, I don't think my readers would appreciate book covers that look like this. That's not the right author for me. So you want to be a bit more selective. And the last thing to note with author swaps is you're going to need a little bit of a list. Most authors that are swapping want to get something in return because I'm recommending your book. I'm sending it out to my list, and I would like my book to go out to some readers too, so that maybe I can find some new readers. This is why we recommend starting with group promos. You'll build a list really quickly, and then once you have a small list and you engaged with them, you can start to participate in some of these author swaps and find other individuals. You'll find a lot of authors that do swaps that don't necessarily do group promos, right? You'll find a new pool of authors in each place because we have a lot of authors that do both. We also have authors that only do one or the other. So you're going to find different lists and different authors to interact with if you're using both of those features. So going back to just a quick review of what I just talked about, you start your marketing with group promos and author swaps so that you can learn and perfect your funnel. And this is before you've really started spending a lot of money or before you've started doing anything like paid promotions. I'm going to briefly talk about paid promotions because I want you all to understand sort of what the next steps are. And again, if you go read the slides, if you look at, there's actually a PDF checklist that I've made out and given that's on the link at that bookfunnel.com women in publishing. That talks about everything. That's kind of runs you down step by step what you need to do to get this marketing funnel ready. But what's great is by using BookFunnel promos, especially if you use the coupon that we have on that page, you can get started with BookFunnel really, really cheaply and figure out where you're falling down, right? If you're joining group promos, you put your book into those promos. And when you're first starting out, even if you have a small list, you'll find lots of promos on BookFunnel that are welcoming to new authors. So you don't have a list, you don't have anything, and you're just starting out. Great, come on and join us. And you put your book in there. But if you start to notice that you're putting your book in these promos and you're not getting any signups, what BookFunnel will show you on your stats is how many people clicked on your book cover and then how many people signed up for your list. If no one is clicking on your book cover, if you know that the promo had 1,000 clicks, meaning 1,000 people clicked on the promo and viewed it, and your book cover only got 2, there's a problem with your book cover. If no one's clicking on your cover, there's a problem with it. And that is a problem that you need to address. If out of 1,000 people, 400 people clicked on your cover and then only 2 people signed up, okay, now you have a problem with your tagline, you have a problem with your title, or you have a problem with your book description, your lead magnet description, right? So you can start to figure these things out by looking at your numbers and your statistics and figuring out where are you going wrong. And then if everything is firing, people are clicking on your cover, so your cover is getting a lot of clicks. People are, the majority of people that click on your cover sign up, means your blurb is working, your tagline is working, all of those things are working. You can figure all these things out really quickly and really cheaply without spending a lot of money on paid promotions. But I do want to briefly touch on paid promotions because once you get this funnel working, you are going to want to start looking other places where you can find new readers because again, it is a numbers game. We want to try to get more people at the top of the funnel so we get more people out of the bottom. There are lots of paid promotion services out there. These are just a few that I've listed, but none of these are free. These are all services that you can pay for, but you're going to reach a very different audience, right? You're going to reach more readers that you can get to start building a bigger list. You can start getting more people into your books. But again, you really don't want to go spend this money until you know that your funnel is working, that your cover's working, your tagline's working, your book description are working. All of these things are firing. And now you can go and start to spend a little bit of money, $20, $30 here and there. And then once you've tried some of these paid promotions, and again, they're going to give you more data. You're going to learn whether or not in this paid promotion, whether a lot of people picked up your reader magnet or your lead magnet, or whether you sent out this big promotion and it didn't really work. Nobody really wanted your book. Then you have to work on that little bit. You have to work on the cover. You have to work on the tagline. Once you get paid promotions and you've tried a few of these, and then you'll have a regular schedule for this. I could do a whole other talk on paid promotions, which is why I want to mention it here, because it is the next step in your sort of marketing journey. And then after we do paid promotions, we get into actual advertising. These are things like Facebook ads, Amazon ads, BookBub ads, free booksies. Those are also promotions, but you can run advertising on a lot of those platforms. If your funnel is not perfected, and if you don't know what you're doing, these are a tremendous way to light your money on fire. Facebook, Amazon, BookBub, all of them will be happy to spend all of your money and give you no results if you don't know what you're doing. So you want to be really careful with ads as you move through the steps and as you get to this next portion. I don't have anyone I can personally recommend, but I would recommend you at least read a few books on Facebook ads if you're going to run Facebook ads. Start really small. Start with something that maybe you spend a couple of dollars a day, and then again, test your funnel. Is your ad copy working? Are your images on the Facebook ads working? You want to spend a little bit to figure these things out so that you don't spend a lot only to learn that none of this is working. And you will get to this step. I would not recommend that you start running ads or even start playing with ads until you have at least 3 books to sell, possibly even as many as 5. And the reason is that once you have more books, every dollar you spend on advertising becomes multiplied by the number of books. If you have a 5-book series, then I can spend money on advertising to get people to buy book 1, because I know that a lot of the people that buy book 1 are going to go on to buy book 2, 3, 4, and eventually all the way through the series. So I can spend a little bit more money to get a lead, knowing that I have more books to sell them. If you only have 1 or 2 books to sell, you're probably going to lose money on advertising. I would work more on getting your funnel set up, doing promos, building your list, and then of course, write the next book. And that is the last sort of step of this plan, which is you should always be writing the next book. Whatever that is. If you write nonfiction, what are you going to write next? If you write in series, the next book in your series. If you're starting a new series, great. How are you going to advertise and market that series? Does that series nestle perfectly with the series that you're already writing? Can you use the same mailing list? Have you decided to move from small town romance to slasher horror? Well, then the current list that you've built is not going to work very well for you. So you want to make sure that you're always writing that next book. You always know what the next thing coming down the pipe is going to be. And then finally, you have to talk to your readers. And I will tell you that this is the number one mistake that I see authors make when they are starting to build their funnel. As they are getting readers on their mailing list, they're not talking to them, right? You're just collecting email addresses and you're not using them. And I know this is hard because a lot of us don't want to, we don't want to spend a lot of time talking to other people. I know most writers, I know most of us are introverts, not me, obviously, but I know that a lot of you are, and I know that there are a lot of you out there that you'd rather be writing the book and you don't want to have to do all of this stuff, but this stuff is really important. So you're going to need to talk to your readers. Once per month is fine. I know authors out there who send 3 times a week, sometimes once a week, once every other week. Once a month is okay. If you can just get 1 email out a month, you're doing great. And that's all readers really need to hear from you. Some readers might want to hear more from you, especially if you're really funny and you've got great things to say. But you need to do it at least once a month, or they're going to forget you. They won't remember. If you're emailing them once a year when you have a new book out, they won't even remember who you were or why they liked you. When you email them that once a month, don't just talk about the next book. Don't send every email going, hey, I'm still working on book 4. Hey, book 4 is coming along great. Hey, I'm still working on book 4. Don't do that. I mean, you could mention that, but have a reason to send that email other than just, I'm doing my obligatory once a month email. And I will tell you this, this is a great strategy. If you don't know what to say, if you're not the kind of person who can talk shop talk or be really personal in your emails, and that none of that stuff really interests you, and you just want to write, then write them a short story. Write a short story that feeds into your series. Take a side character, right? If you write small town romance, grab one of those side characters that's not part of the main loop of the book and write a fun short story with them. Some funny adventure. They went off on a camping trip. It doesn't matter. If you have a good idea, write a short story. Then once a month, you email your group, email your list, and say, "Hey, everybody, I'm working on book 4. Here's where you have permission to mention the next book here. Hey, I'm working on book 4. I had a funny idea for an adventure, for a little side story with such and such. I know it's one of your favorite, a lot of people's favorite characters. I wrote a short story about it. Here, I wanted you guys to have it. Check it out. I think you'll really like it." No reader is ever going to be upset with you if you're sharing more of your writing, more of your stories with them, right? So if you really don't have anything else to talk about, try writing them a short story and sending that out, and that will give you an excuse. That will give you something. Also, every single short story that you write becomes one more piece of your backlist. That is something that you can go and put up on Amazon and sell. You can box up those short stories and put them in an anthology once a year and put them out there to sell. Every story that you write becomes one more piece of your backlist and one more product that you have to sell. And if all else fails and you're not sure what to email people, um, always go with cat pictures. Uh, this is my cat. This is Colby. And he's my favorite, as you can see, but he sits with me. And so we're going to run through the wrap up. I'm going to quickly go over the same bullet list that I showed you earlier because we talked about each of these steps. Step 1, finish your book. Damon from BookFunnel said, finish your book. That's the first thing you need to do. Then you're going to write a reader magnet. Then you're going to go set up a mailing list. Check out Erica Everest's book for a few dollars. You're going to write a welcome email. Check out Newsletter Ninja. BookFunnel will buy you a copy. Put a call to action in the back of your books before or after you've published, but you want to make sure that when they get to the end of the book, you have somewhere for them to go. Then you're going to write a lead magnet, or if you've already written a reader magnet and it works great as a lead magnet, you're going to use that. All the way up to step 6, everything we've done here is free. I guess you spent a few dollars on Erica Everest's book, but really, mostly we're free up until the point where you're going to get a BookFunnel account. And if you use that coupon, if you don't already have one, if you use the coupon that's on that page, you'll get one that's going to run a little more than $8 a month. So that is, we have a great coupon up there for everybody to get started with. Then you're going to start joining group promos. Once you have that lead magnet, you have your books out there to sale, you're going to start joining BookFunnel group promos as a way to build your list. Then once you have built something of list, you're going to start looking at author swaps and how can you find other authors that you can swap with. Then if you get through all of that and you're ready for the next step, then you can jump into paid advertising, either by looking for paid promotional services where you can spend $20 or $30 a piece to join promotions, or you can start looking at Facebook ads, Amazon ads, BookBub ads, things like that. Again, paid advertising is going to work a lot better for you if you have more than 2 books, really 3 to 5 books or even more, because every dollar that you spend is going to be compounded by the number of books that you have to sell. If you only have 1 book out there, if you only have 2, I probably would hold off on the paid advertising and I would work harder on writing that next book. So I am going to open up the floor for questions. I am not going to look at the chat because it's probably going to be too much for me to handle.
It is a lot.
Yeah.
Do you want me to jump in here with you and read the questions to you? Or do
Yeah,
you
if you would please.
Yeah, absolutely.
If everybody has that link, if not, I'll mention it again. I'll even drop it in the chat, but I'm going to stop sharing so now that everybody can see my lovely bearded face.
Yeah, and it's also, so his link also is the same link that you'll find at womenandpublishingsummit.com/bookfunnel if you can't remember the other link, and we've dropped that in the chat a couple times.
Yeah,
Okay.
perfect.
All right, so Ruth wants to know, stories are great for fiction, but what kind of lead magnets or reader magnets do nonfiction authors do?
It's a great question. I really should put a slide for nonfiction in my talk. Nonfiction is going to be a little bit different. What I would say probably works best for so in fiction, you almost never want to do samples. I will tell you from experience that readers really they don't want to read the first 3 chapters of your book. They'd rather read something that's a complete story and then decide that they want to buy your book. Samples, however, do work great in nonfiction because what I'm trying to do, and if I'm looking for a nonfiction book, let's say I want to start running I want to start running marathons, and I'm going to read your book about how to run a marathon or how to get started running a marathon. The first 3 chapters of that are going to tell me whether your book is the right kind of information that I'm looking for. And so I can read the first 3 chapters of a nonfiction book and then decide, oh, I really like this. This is good information. I now want to go read the rest of the book because I know that this author has good information. I would definitely make one thing that you definitely want to do in nonfiction is anywhere in your whatever your magnet is, which again, you could use the first couple of chapters in your book, do more than just an introduction. Give them something that actually says, I mean, you're in nonfiction, you're trying to present yourself, assuming we're not talking about memoirs, which again is a different thing. But even that in memoirs, you can use sample chapters because that tells me whether or not your story is something that I'm interested in. But we're
Mhm.
talking about nonfiction. Let's say that you're writing in self-help or something, some category like that. What I really need to know is, are you the expert I think you are? And are you giving the right information? So I would use sample chapters. I would use the first few chapters of your book. Let them see that you actually know what you're talking about. So again, more than just your introduction. And I would make sure that you, at the front of that, whatever that is, a shortened version of an ebook or a PDF, make sure that you include your table of contents. Because if I'm reading nonfiction, I want to know what is the actual content of the book. What are the rest of the chapters that you're not giving me that I know that I want to go and buy?
That's a great idea. Get that table of contents. Okay, Kristen says, I'm curious about your thoughts on how this works for, oh, same question, writers of nonfiction. Okay, I
Nonfiction.
think we answered it. Kristen, if you didn't feel like your answer was answered appropriately, please come back into the Q&A box and ask a follow-on. Okay, John says, on covers for prequel novellas as giveaway lead magnets, is it okay to use high quality AI generated image instead of paying for an outside source book cover?
I think so.
I
I
think so
don't.
too.
I'm not going to get into the debate on AI, not AI. There are actually lots of great covers out there, and cover designers and even services that will give you covers for a few bucks. Or yes, you can absolutely go and create your own through whichever method that you feel is appropriate. The point that the biggest thing about the cover is you want it to be a good cover, and you want it to telegraph very clearly what genre that you are in. If you're not sure how to do that, if you write, let's say, slasher horror, if you're not, you should probably have a pretty decent idea of what a slasher horror cover should look like. If you don't, you should go to Amazon, go to that category, and look at all the covers in that category at the top of the list. The ones at the
Mhm.
top, those are the covers that you want to copy. Whatever style they use, you will find, like if you go look at epic fantasy, which is what I write and what I read, if you go look at epic fantasy, it is still the best cover that you can have are illustrated, right? So
Mhm.
not a photo. If it's a Photoshop photo manipulated cover, um, it doesn't say epic fantasy at all. It has to look like a painting or a drawing. It's got to have some dragons on it, somebody wielding some magic, some swords, all of that sort of stuff, right? So the most important thing about your cover, regardless of the money that you spend and where you get it from, is that the cover very clearly telegraphs not only the genre, and this is probably a point that I didn't make, the whatever your lead magnet is should be the same as the books that you're writing. So if you've written a great short, you write a space opera, but you've written this really great horror short story, that's not a lead magnet. That is going to set readers up for the wrong expectation. They've read your horror short story and they're like, well, I like this guy. I'm going to go check out his books. Oh, that over there, that's space opera. That's not horror.
Mhm.
So the cover of your lead magnet should not only telegraph what is in the lead magnet, it should really telegraph what you are, your brand as an author, and the whole series that they're going to be reading. That's the most important thing about that cover.
Yeah, 100%. And on that note, Chat GPT can be a really good reference resource for something like that. It can research anything under the sun. I would guess, I haven't tried to do this yet, but actually I needed some help with mold remediation. And one of my friends went to Chat GPT and it gave me a whole list of things I needed to do and people I needed to contact. So I bet you could go in there and say, what I'm writing in fantasy, epic fantasy, what should my cover look like? And I'll bet it would
Yeah,
come back with some great answers for you.
I bet you could even upload a cover and say, what genre does this book think, do you think this book is in? Because you can do, I mean, there are writer groups that you can join on Facebook where you can do the same. Hey, everybody, here's my new book cover. what genre does this say to you? If
Yeah.
you're really not sure, this is one of those
Yeah.
things where once you've done a few books, I mean, everybody, you should really know your genre pretty well.
Yeah.
But if you don't, if you're not terribly sure, you can always go ask other authors or readers. I'm happy to look at your book cover and go, that says horror to me. Are you sure that's what you're going for? Oh, darn, I was going for space opera. That definitely does not say space opera to me.
And listen, y'all, listen when other people in the industry give you that kind of feedback. I know a lot of times we get so connected to our covers and we just can't let it go, but people are trying to help you succeed when they give you
For
that
sure.
kind of feedback. They're not trying to be ugly. So, okay, I'm going to read this question, but I need some clarification. Is there a way to get emails or contacts from publishing sites like Amazon or Ingram Spark? I need to know, do you mean to get the email addresses of people who have purchased your books through Amazon or through the Ingram store? Or do you mean how do you get contact information for people who work there? That would be important to know. The first question is no, no.
No retailers are going to give you data about your readers.
Okay.
They may tell you, Amazon might tell you how many people bought your book. They might not. They might just make numbers up. But for the most part, the only numbers that you're going to get from any retailers, from Ingram Spark, from Amazon, Kobo, Barnes and Noble, Google Play, Apple, from all of them, the only thing you'll get is units sold. If you want email addresses, the way that you get email addresses is that call to action in the back of your book. When they get to the end of your book, it says, "Hey, I'm and thank you for reading. I hope you really enjoyed the book. I have a bonus chapter. There's a prequel novella, whatever. You don't have to use words like prequel novella, but you can say whatever you want to do to entice them to click on that link. And you say, if you join my newsletter, you can get a copy for free, right? That is how you collect email addresses, even on books that you're selling on retailers.
Awesome. Also, in case anybody wants to see, this is beyond the questions, but we talked about the group promos. I happen to be in a promo right now, and they are for all topics, right? I'm in one that's on books for writers specifically, so it's very
Oh yeah.
relevant to this group. But if you want to check it out, you can click on the link that I just dropped in chat or copy that to go to later. It'll also help my score. All right, let's see. I can't find the historical fiction genre and group promos. Am I not looking in the right place? Oh, such a great question.
That's a good question. Let's go. I mean, I've actually popped open my browser and I'm going to go look. I know it should be there.
Could it be that no one's running a group promo? Because they're not always listed if there's not one happening, right? Or are they always listed in the major genres?
So there is a let's see, under general fiction, there's historical fiction. So it's
Okay.
posted under general fiction / historical fiction. So there are top level genres, which are going to be mystery and suspense, romance, science fiction and fantasy, things like that. And then once you click on those, yeah, there may not be, if you look at general fiction, you may not find that anybody's running a historical fiction promo right now. I would encourage you to go run one. Anybody can
Absolutely.
start a promo. All of the promos, we do have BookFunnel promos where our authors that work for BookFunnel are running promos every month to try and help new authors ease in and get introduced to promos. So there you'll find promos that are promoted that BookFunnel is running. Most of the promos you will find on the board are run by authors just like you. So if you're writing in a genre and you think, no, I can't find one for historical fiction, go and make one.
Part one.
You'll find that there are a lot of authors. Oftentimes, a lot of people are just waiting around for somebody to pick up the baton and start leading.
And it's so easy. It really is. It's such a book. We're going to do what I like to call skills labs on these things, and I'm going to do a skills lab for BookFunnel just so you know it's one that we people in our community we run and we show how we use the tool as authors. So Damon doesn't have to come. You don't have to feel any pressure. It's not a sales pitch. It's just us saying here's how we use it. But I'm going to do one coming soon with BookFunnel because we can answer a lot of these questions and just
Yeah.
showing people how simple it is to use the tool.
Yeah, I
All right.
love that.
Yeah, it's fun. Okay, let's see. Next question from Lisa. What about memoir? Can you do a novel? What do you suggest for a reader magnet or lead magnet for memoir?
I would probably so for memoir, if you had something that you could write as a lead, like so let's say that you're writing a memoir about, I don't know, I don't like to get into specifics because then it becomes I'm giving advice to one person and not to a larger crowd. But let's say
Right.
that you've written a memoir about your amazing trip to Italy, right? And so you might either, if you had a story that something that happened that wasn't in the book, then you could write that as a lead magnet to give an example of the kind of writing. Again, the point of the lead magnet is to show, if you like this, then this over here is what you're going to want to read. Or you might just pull one, memoirs can be great because generally each chapter sort of is literally a chapter of your life or some part of your story. So you could just pull one chapter, not necessarily the beginning. You might pull a more enticing chapter from the middle, something that is a bit funny or something that has a style that you want to show off. Take that one chapter, maybe massage the opening a little bit to make it more of a complete short story, or I'm sorry, a complete thing, and then use that as your lead magnet. And then at the end, of course, at the end of your lead magnet, your reader magnet can assume that the person reading it has already read one of your books because that's how they got here. They got to this magnet because they read one of your books. But a lead magnet, you never want to assume that they've read anything. So at the end of your lead magnet, you want a call to action. You say, if you love this story and you'd love to hear more about my adventures, my memoir is available now. And you could point them to, they're already on your list because you already got them. That's how they got the lead magnet, right? So you don't have to point them back to sign up. Now you want to point them to Amazon or Kobo or wherever you want to sell your book. Now you want to point them like, oh, if you like this story, you'll love the rest of my adventures. Go buy the book, right? That's the call to action that you want at the end of your lead magnet.
Okay. Phenomenal. Let's see. John says you mentioned cover, title, tagline, and book descriptions as key components affecting the efficient marketing of your book. Do you find that Amazon A plus content is also important?
Um, I would say, I mean, it's so anything that you can give readers to telegraph what your book is about, and even more importantly, what your author brand is. What do you write, right? If I say Stephen King, you probably all immediately had an idea, I mean, you're in your head of what kind of books you might expect. If you saw a cover that said nothing but Stephen King on it, you'd probably have an idea, maybe not some, because he tends to bounce around a little bit. If you saw a cover that said Nora Roberts on it, you have a pretty good idea of what's in that book, right? Because Nora Roberts has a very clear author brand. And you don't know exactly what you're going to get, but you have an idea. So the A plus content is great for those readers that want to dig in and learn more. So would I say that it's important? No, but all of this marketing effort, every little piece that you can do. The beauty is if you can find content, if you can find marketing efforts that you can set up one time and then never have to do it again, then that stuff will keep producing and keep bringing people into the funnel forever. So that A plus content is one of those great ways where you can take a little time out of your day, set all of that stuff up, and then you're not going to change the book later. So that A plus content's not going to change. So you can go through and set it up once and it will forever be there. Is it
Yeah.
important to every reader? No, but I buy lots of books without ever looking at the reviews. And then I read reviews thoroughly before buying some books, right? A lot of it just depends. So having reviews, having all that A plus content, it's always a bonus. You should have it if you can. But I mean, if it came down to that or writing the next book, you should probably be spending more of your effort. You want to make sure that you're spending more of your effort on the things that are actually going to drive more sales, which is putting out more books.
A plus content, just for those of you who don't know, it's on your Amazon sales page. It'll say from the publisher, and it's graphics. So it'll be a nice graphic, a scene from the book, or quotes from the book, or different authors use it in different ways. But it's pretty. It looks really nice. It gives a real nice professional feel to it. But like like Damon just said, I just scroll down through that stuff and I read the description of the book, and if I like it, I buy it. I don't always even scroll down. So I concur. Write your book, then do all that kind of extra pretty fun stuff. Okay, Margaret. Hi, Margaret. Margaret says, at what point in the publishing process is it smartest to join BookFunnel? I'm in the very early stages of writing my book, but I know how important marketing is. Yay. So I want to get a jump start. But am I jumping the gun?
I would say yes. I probably wouldn't. But I would say, being quite honest, until you really have the first book ready to go. So not necessarily, out the door and published, but it needs to be ready to go. I personally, my first book was finished, and then it was a year later before it was edited enough that I was brave enough to put it out into the world, right? So, but once you feel like publishing is imminent, I would say at that point you should probably look at join. You should probably write a read or a leader magnet, reader or lead magnet. I said those two wrong. A reader magnet or a lead magnet, so that when you put that first book out the door, you've already got that call to action in the back to get people onto your list. Because as I said in my talk, you really don't know where those earliest readers are going to come from. You don't know whether or not your book is going to be the one that blows up. It still happens. We like to, you hear, I know we've all heard stories. We've heard the stories about people that sounds like they won the lottery. And then we've all heard the stories of people that like they've written 10 books and they're not making any money. Like it runs the gamut, but you don't know where you're going to fall on that spectrum. Lucy Score is a perfect example. She put her first book out there and she broke all the rules. She did everything wrong, right? According to romance authors. Her books are 150,000 word romances. They're standalones. She wasn't in the beginning, she wasn't writing in series, just everything wrong. And her books took off like a rocket. And those first two books that she put out, she had hundreds of thousands of reads and downloads and no call to action in the back of the book. She missed all of those. And by the time she did, she eventually went back after the second book was already published. She went back into book one and book two, wrote a bonus chapter for each one. Each one had because they're standalones. Each one had a different bonus chapter and started building her list that way. But she missed out on those early reads because, of course, and I mean, we'd love, I guess not everybody, some of us have big egos, but presumably most of us are out there putting our books out there very timidly thinking, oh, I hope someone reads it. And you're probably right, but you don't know. Your book might be the one that takes off like a rocket. And what you want to make sure is if that happens, you've already got that call to action in the back of your book. So you want to have you want to have the funnel set up before that first book goes out the door, but you want to know that that first book is actually ready to go out the door before you're willing to sign up for a BookFunnel. And I will tell you that the coupon that we have for the Women in Publishing technically runs through the end of December. But we sponsor every year and we really honor that coupon all year. So if you're not ready, don't run off and sign up by the end of December because you think you're going to miss the coupon. If you can come back and say, hey, I saw Damon, I was at the Women in Publishing Summit, we'll honor the coupon all year round. The only reason we expire it is because we don't want it shared widely and everybody outside who didn't attend the conference is now also signing up with the coupon. But we will be happy to honor it when you are ready to use it.
Yay, that's great. Thank you. Okay, let's see here. Can you elaborate on this condition for a giveaway promo, newsletter promo? This promo is for building your newsletter and requires a free book giveaway to join. Is this book per newsletter and is it delivered through BookFunnel?
Yes. So what that means is, so there are two types of promos. I didn't really get into the types, but there are two types of promos that you can join on BookFunnel. There are newsletter builders, which is mostly what I was talking about, where you're giving away a lead magnet and you're collecting readers' email addresses to get them onto your list. We also have what are called sales promos. Sales promos are everybody in this promo is space opera, and we're all going to make our book one 99 cents for the weekend. So you make your book 99 cents on Amazon and whatever retailers you sell on, and then we're going to run this promo and we're all going to send it to our list, but we're not gaining subscribers. We're just trying to drive traffic to those sales platforms. So what that message right there says, that is the kind of newsletter builder. That is the kind of promo that I was talking about in my slides. That is a newsletter builder. And yes, that requires that you have a lead magnet and that lead magnet must be on BookFunnel. That's how they get delivered. So a reader signs up through a BookFunnel sign up page. BookFunnel immediately delivers the lead magnet and then subscribes them to your mailing list, where then your mailing list is going to go off and deliver your wonderful welcome email and all of that sort of stuff.
We've got a couple questions left here. Kay, I don't know what just happened. I went to go answer it. I think I dismissed it. Audiobooks are already a thing in BookFunnel. So if you have an audiobook, you can put it in there.
Everything you can do with an ebook on BookFunnel, you can do with an audiobook. You can gift them, you can create. I didn't get into all the features because this is not a talk about BookFunnel. But yeah, there are actually group promos on BookFunnel that are giving away audio lead magnets, right? And you can find those promos that are audio only and you can join in those too.
Great. Damon, do you ever offer, and I'm going to cut off the questions here because it's getting long, but you can go BookFunnel. They have plenty of resources out there. But will you ever offer a discount for enterprise level?
I mean, yeah, contact us. And so we have publisher plans. If you go to
Uh-huh.
bookfunnel.com/publishers, if you go to our pricing page, there's a link to our publisher plans. If you want to go and look at those, you can see the pricing levels that we already have. And if you have something that you want to do that's not included there, send us an email.
And to be honest, with as much as we use it as a publisher, I mean, it's a very reasonable price for, we have 10 books, 10 authors, I think, in the
Mhm.
system. So that allows us enough to do our launches. Erica, we can ask Damon about his experience with children's books, but this is definitely an area of my expertise as a children's book publisher. So if you want to send that question to us, you can do that too. But Damon, do you have any suggestions for building a list for children? I mean, I think one of the best ways is through the group promos, and there's
Yeah.
6 children's book promos active right now, and there's always we get more notification about children's book promos, I think, than anything else right now.
We have lots of children's book authors on BookFunnel. What I
Yeah,
would say is, something to consider that I don't see some children's book authors considering is the best lead magnets that I've seen, or reader magnets, is audio works great. So you can do an audio reader magnet, which is you reading your book. So sitting down and reading it. So you put it up on your list and say, "Hey, join the list. Here, the book is read by in the author's own voice." You don't have to do professional. It doesn't have to be a narrator. You can treat it more like a bedtime story. I've seen that work really, really well for children's book authors. And then one thing to consider is that most children's book authors are actually out there selling a lot of print books. There isn't a lot of digital pickup in children's books, right? As a parent,
right,
I want to sit with my kids and I want to read the
right.
book. So we have a number of children's book authors who just give away a PDF of the entire children's book. I
Yep,
can tell you that when my kids are my son is 18, my youngest is 11, but I spent a lot of years reading children's books. And one of the hardest parts, the things that really annoyed me, was when I would go shopping for children's books, even on Amazon. Amazon has their look inside, but they would only show me a few pages of the book. Even if I went to
right.
a site, I would eventually started shopping on like Scholastic, because Scholastic would at least give me a few more pages. But I found myself wondering, why don't you just give me the whole book? I'm not going to sit down with my kid at my computer and flip through your free digital look inside and read the book. I want to sit with the book in my lap and I
Yep,
want to read the book. So we have a number of children's book authors that will just give away a PDF that says, here's the whole book.
yep.
If you like it, then here's where you can buy print copies, because that's really what sales in children's books are more about.
That's exactly how we do ours. And in fact, we've put all of our children's books on KU for that same reason. I mean, children's books are expensive, so it's nice to be able to see what's in the book, get a
Yeah,
feel for it,
exactly.
and then have it that way. Okay, last question. John, in addition to books, I do episodic writing on Vella. I see that some of the promo companies are now promoting Amazon Vella Works in addition to ebooks and print books. Is there anything you suggest we do as far as Vella in relationship to BookFunnel?
There are group promos on BookFunnel right now that are specifically targeting Vella.
Cool.
We don't have a switch in there, so there's not a, but it'll be right in the title. So again, every promo is organized by authors just like you. So if you go look and literally just on your browser, Control F, Command F, and search for the word Vella, you will find there are promos that are running all the time now in different genres where Vella authors are specifically working together with each other, because they know that their readers are reading them in Vella. They have really strong readership in Vella. And so there are a number of group promos now. And if you don't see one, start one. I promise you, there are lots of, because most of the authors that I know that are doing Vella, they have like one series in Vella while they're doing other series and other books they're publishing in other ways. But that one series in Vella, if they are doing really, really well in Vella, we're always looking to find more readers. And so they're specifically trying to grow that Vella audience in the same way that you will find sales promos on BookFunnels. Remember, sales promos where we're not trying to collect email addresses, we're driving traffic somewhere else. You will find a lot of KU Kindle Unlimited specific promos on BookFunnel where they say, look, everybody in this promo is in KU. So we're not trying to technically sell books. We are
Right.
trying to, but I know that my list, because all of my books are in KU, I know that my list is a predominantly Kindle Unlimited audience. So if your book is also space opera and in KU, let me send it to my list because my list is looking for more books like you. KU more than anything, and Vela especially, those two types of audiences, they're always looking for more to read, right? Those are the more voracious readers who are always looking for more content. So you will find promos on BookFunnel that are Vela specific. They actually mention Kindle Vela and say, hey, this promo is for Vela authors.
Love it. Well, as usual, this has been such great information. I'm sure you all learned a ton. Do go to their website, check out their offers, check out all the things going on there. But again, we've been using this, I don't know how many years since early on in my process. So probably at least 6 years. Have y'all been around 6 years? It
We
feels
have
like
been around almost 10 now.
okay, well, I may have been with you guys since I don't know, almost the beginning, but it's such a great tool. We appreciate your support so very much. Also, thank you for the water bottles. He's providing water bottles for our Charlotte conference, so that's
Yeah.
exciting. Yay. All right, everyone. Well, be sure to check out the page that we dropped. Again, it's womenInPublishingSummit.com/bookfunnel to grab your discount. Get in there, join some group promos, do some things. Make sure you integrate your email list, so your email provider, so that you can just easily put people right on your email sequence, and make sure you have that email sequence ready to go. And it can just be such a great tool for you. Are you going to send over? I don't know if you normally send slides or not.
They're available if you go to the bookfunnel.com/women in publishing, or the same page. It all goes to the
Same
same
page.
page. You'll actually find the slides for my talk in a PDF on that page, as
Awesome.
well as the link to get your copy for BookFunnel to buy you a copy of Newsletter Ninja, and then a link back to Erica Everest. But it's all in the checklist, the PDF checklist. It's all
Nice.
there at the top of that page. So yes, you can
Nice.
absolutely get all the slides for my talk right there on that link.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Damon. Thank you everyone for being here, and we will see you at our next one. Have a great day.
Thank you all for
Bye.
coming.